today on Let's Talk Music. And hello, welcome, Mr. Ivan Grammer. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where are you from, and how we came to meet?
Okay. I grew up in St. Simons Island, Georgia. I've moved around a lot. I've lived in San Diego, California, Breckenridge, Colorado, South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, Atlanta. I said Atlanta. I now live in the Cocoa Beach, Florida area, Central Florida area on the coast here. I am John's basically son-in-law, and blessed to be that. Got to do some jazz. We did some jazz at the wedding, right? Oh no, you did you get on it? Yeah, you did. That's right. So that was awesome. I am a professional working drummer in the Central Florida area. Fourth generation musician. My father is a professional working musician. He plays drums and sings. My grandfather was a professional working musician. He played drums and trumpet and sang. He was prolific in the rockabilly era. There's a couple little museums over in Europe that kind of cite him as one of the innovators of that. My great grandfather played back in the big band swing era, and he with Tommy Dorsey, Glenn Miller, and then he was kind of prolific when that transferred over to like the Texas swing thing started coming out.
Nice.
My dad also taught me too. He said, if you want to be able to eat, you better be able to play it all. So I have fun playing multiple genres of music. Here locally, you're on the beach, so everybody wants to hear reggae. So you play a lot of reggae shows up and down the beach. You're going into the town, into Orlando to play more jazz and R&B type gigs, funk. I play with a lot of like funk, Motown kind of acts, which is super fun, doing Motown Christmas and stuff like that at amphitheaters and stuff up and down the coast. Play with a country band, play in my local church, played at several local churches here. It's actually how I met my wife as a fill-in drummer at the church, Naomi. Everybody.
Very nice. Very nice. So let me ask you this. Are there any projects that you're working on currently?
Well, the only projects I'm working on currently is getting certain bands kind of revamped for when the market opens back up. So I am working on that project. I'm still playing at church intermittently because even the churches, are just doing the online thing as well. And then, teaching.
So you mentioned that you're teaching. Do you have a degree in music?
Well, what I have is a certificate degree from the Atlanta Institute of Music. And so it's music performance degree. That's how they gauge it there. They have great teachers there. I studied under Christopher Coleman, who in my opinion is probably one of the best drummers in the world.
Nice. So is there a music that you prefer to play?
Yeah, I'll say two things on that. Again, my dad said, if you want to be able to eat, you better be able to play it all. And for me, it's super fun to be able to play multiple different genres. And I really feel like no matter how much I love each of the different genres, I would get sick of it if that's all I did. So I appreciate all the different genres. And to me, they kind of make each other more fun, especially when you find those commonalities that you can bring something new and fresh to it, and everything's fusion. Although there's times when you need to play specifically to a style. So I love like Latin jazz because it's heavily percussive, rhythmically challenging. It's very melodic, on the drum kit. I like hip hop and funk, reggae. I love anything that's Ireland feel,
So let me ask you this, okay? So how do you define the art that you create? Can you describe it when you play? Can you describe?
I could maybe talk about what I believe it's supposed to be.
Okay, very
Okay,
interesting.
so number one, as a private teacher, I can teach my students whatever I want, basically, and and not to be offensive, but I teach my students basically that music is a gift, and if it's a gift, that means it's given, and if it's given by someone, and I believe that God gives the gift of music to people, and it's for His glory. So no matter where you go, honor that, respect that, so there's a huge spiritual, soulish element to the music. Um, to me, gospel music it doesn't matter the genre. It's all, gospel is about a message. So you can do that within any genre of music. So to me, uh, in regards to art and you sharing that gift, you're really kind of putting your heart out there. It becomes you as an artist and you as a band and then the people all together become organic, become like an organism, a living thing that is connected, so something powerful transcends there, something powerful happens there. And I think that's the power of music, to move people, and to connect with people. That's why I think there's such a high in it, and it's so glorious. It's so amazing when you can connect with other musicians and just get in there. And it's beautiful when your instrument disappears and it just becomes music. You're not trying to cram this, rhythm into this melody, this circle into a square. It just kind of fits right in a pocket, and you're all, just thinking the same thing, it just happens that way. And when you connect that to, for me, I love to play any music that moves the people. I don't care if it's thrash metal where they're, slam dancing, kicking holes in the ceiling, or if it's just everybody dancing and laughing, the fact that you're all together enjoying that. I think that's the power of music. And in the context of worship, I think that's the point of it, is that freedom can be experienced in a purest of senses where it's aimed at God altogether. And that's why they call it a body. It's one body where Christ is the head.
Nice.
Then, in my opinion, that is the true intention and purpose of music.
So, were there any early successes or failures that sort of molded you or guided you or shaped you in your musicianship where you are now?
Yeah. Well, I would say there's uh, early on always plenty of failures. It starts out with failure to figure out how to play your 8-minute 2-chord song into a boombox without making any mistakes, because you're not going to cut the tape and then make your parents listen to it, 18,000 times. I started playing drum beats, actually grooves, like a 4/4 rock groove, when I was 2 or 3 years old. I had my own band by the time I was 12, and at that time, we're trying to play Slayer cover tunes. That's my early influences, right? Speed metal, thrash metal, punk, all that. And then I discovered Lenny White, who's like this jazz fusion, Chick Corea, Weather Report, whatever, great. So that took all my emphasis off my feet to my hands, and all this. By the time I was 18, I was playing with a band. We opened up for Three Dog Night. And so through the years, it's been, it felt like successes. Nobody really came to see me, but you're still on the same bill with Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So I would call those some successes. I would say that some of the failures that I had that helped me were, for example, I applied to get into the music program at the University of Colorado at Boulder, right? I've been playing beats, I'm watching guys come out of Berklee School of Music, when I'm living in San Diego. I'm like, wow, that guy's really good, but he ain't that much better than me. And I can't even hardly get into the program. And I couldn't get in at Boulder, Colorado, because of the fact that though I grew up playing drums my whole life, I didn't play pitch percussion. I didn't play timpani or bells. And they said, though you show considerable, skill, you didn't meet these requirements. So I couldn't even get into some of the programs in which I'd see the guy playing. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think I play better than that guy. So that really held me back, but it also drove me to study.
What has been your greatest accomplishment as a musician? What would you say that is?
2 things. One is to glorify God in service to His people. That's the number one thing, and that will always be the number one thing. The second thing is the ability to feed my family by doing what I love.
Do you have any goals that as an artist? Where do you want to be as an artist?
I think like most musicians, most artists, what you really want to do is be able to have some stuff captured, recorded that you think that you really dig, that really represents truly, kind of your heart, your soul, your best offering, to the world. I tell you, one of the things that truly make me proud is as in being a teacher, seeing your students carry it, because I always tell them, I'm like, man, one day I'm passing the torch to you. I want to see you take it to the next level. I mean, if as a form of discipleship or as a form of, if a community, a parent, wants to see their child take whatever they got, the best of what they got, not repeat the same mistakes, but take the best of what they got and take it higher. I tell my students, one day I want to be able to take lessons from you.
Let me ask you this. How does your art relate to other kinds of art? Say, for instance, sculpting or film?
Music is the most beautiful expression that a person can come up with. You're putting words to poetry, and into melody, into rhythm. It's just like a total, your whole being trying to express something to someone else. So when we talk about sculpting, to me, like I'm thinking, Michelangelo or somebody like that, where they're going, he's like, there's a person in there. I already see that person, and I just gotta carve them out of that big slab, and I think that, like, as a musician, as an artist, or somebody, who's a writer or arranger, someone's creative like that, singing to the Lord a new song, you're trying to sculpt that, really. You're trying to get that out, and you're using different media. For me, a huge thing when it comes to making music are the voicings that you choose. That's why I love the Hammond B3. That's why I love the Rhodes sound. I love an older brother who knows how to work the crap out of a wah pedal. I love tone junkies. I love all the new sounds, like all the ear candy stuff that you can get, with dubstep and hip hop and samples and all that. I love to bring all that together. And so to me, you're kind of sculpting this thing, and you're chipping away stuff, scratch and cut and paste and, make it right.
Nice. Thank you. Are there any artists out there today that influence you?
Like I mentioned earlier, Sylvan Esso, I really love their sound. It's very simple. So I like Sylvan Esso. I like heavy stuff still. I like to listen to Bad Brains or something and get all amped up and go surf.
Okay.
I love studying any the new school, Snarky Puppy, who are doing like a newer jazz fusion, basically, funk fusion.
How does your art relate to, say, society or politics? Does it do that at all?
Because I believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I believe that music is a catalyst to carry a message, right? It's a vehicle. And before I ever came to Christ, I knew it was a love thing, right? You can use it, to share, right thinking, if you will, a certain message, a positive vibe, if you want. But I didn't really understand what love was until I saw the cross. That changed everything. And because of that, I still want to use music as a vehicle. And for me, that's why I actually I'm going to grade school of theology, because I believe the Lord said before any ministry goes, sound doctrine. So it's important to know what it says.
Does your art reflect your identity?
As art, yeah, I think so. I mean, when I'm involved in anything where I get to be artistic, creative, and express it in my own way, yes, there are times when I will do studio sessions work. I ask, whoever, whether it be the writer or the engineer or whoever's in control of that, what are they hearing? And sometimes I'll say, man, just put your thing on it. So I have total freedom, creative freedom to put my thing on it.
So last question here is, what advice do you have for young and up and coming artists?
Well, obviously, given the content of what I've said so far, it would be the same. Just as I taught or teach any of my students, I tell them, I'm like, look, music is a gift from God. You need to honor that. You need to honor yourself. You need to glorify God. When I went to Atlanta Institute of Music, it was very easy to see that brothers in there just wanted to shred. And they wanted to shred because they wanted the glory. In the Bible, it talks about, how the chief musician in heaven was Satan himself, and he fell, because he wanted the glory. Pride comes before the fall. So I would tell people, understand, if you've been given a gift, the gift is to be shared in service to other people. So give your best, be faithful over that gift, be diligent over that gift. And also too, like when I went to Atlanta Institute of Music, basically the professor of music, he said, look, guys and gals, there are 1,000 people living on the streets of New York who are 100 times better than any of us will ever be. learn the business or keep flipping hamburgers.
So is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
So I'm a local guy, trying to make a living here as a professional musician, and been able to do it for a few years now. A couple of things. Given this climate, I'll add this. This is not any big advice, but this is given this advice, this climate with the COVID-19 coronavirus. Like I'm watching now the restaurants and the clubs and stuff start to open back up, but they're supposed to open back up at 25%. All right. One, I don't think any of these establishments can even operate at 25% capacity and still be in business. Two, the band is there to draw and be entertainment and help the place stay packed. A lot of places saying, hey, we don't have much money. We don't have much of a budget. Can you guys come in and play for $300? And so it's not a fear, but my concern is that a lot of people who play for a living will go, I'm broke too, sure. And that becomes a new local industry standard. So I would hope that local musicians would not undercut the market, basically diminishing returns for everybody in a local market to where no one can really make a living. If people accept that, and some will, then, you know, my comment to most of these clubs is, they say, well, I asked them what their budget is. Okay, for that amount, I have a duo. For that amount, I have a trio, a 5-piece, whatever. You know, I have a 17-piece horn band, whatever, you know, the budget is. But I don't let them dictate, okay, it's $100 a man or $150 a man or anything like that. And then two, with that, you know, a lot of people are, well, I can get a band in here for, you know, $200 or $300 or, you know, $500, whatever it is. If you want hobbyists, you know, then that's what you get. If you want people who've been faithful over their craft for 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you know, who know how to entertain, then you pay for what you get. You know, so I would hope that the local musicians going out there, you know, they would have a standard, they would understand the industry, you know, and support the industry, take that serious, you know, if there's going to be a future for people who are really trying to take musicianship to a higher level.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That pretty much closes our interview. I personally want to thank you for assisting me in accomplishing my task and my assignment. And I'm sure my students and instructors are going to enjoy our interview.